what's the latest on Deshaun Watson, if there is one? Our colleague in the NFL media group, your former one, my current one, Jim Trotter, was on the show. I got Steve Weich of the Huddle and Flow podcast on Thursday. Their conversation with David Culley was something else last week, and then Jim dropped here because I said on the show, like, look, if Watson is going to get boxed in, which appears to be one way that he would term it, I would say. And then at some point during the summer, potentially, if it does go that long, they're going to force him to choose between his money and his principles. And that's a spot where no athlete really wants to be. Certainly, if you're going to be portrayed in the media or certain places as something you're not, and so on and so forth. That I asked Jim, like, when's he going to say something publicly to change that narrative? Because he could get out of that box with just one sit-down interview with somebody or one Instagram post, and he's just like, why would he want to say anything? He's not going to win anything by saying anything, and intimated that there's a camera crew following him right now to chronicle this whole thing, and you will hear from him by the time it's over, is what Jim Trotter had to say. What are you hearing about this whole business right now, Albert?
So I got to tell you what other teams are getting when they're calling Nick Caserio, the new general manager there. Nick's basically said to every team that's called, you can ask me about any player but the quarterback. So, that's sort of what they're being greeted with. Now, that doesn't mean offers aren't being made. That doesn't mean that Nick, even though he's saying he's not taking offers, isn't writing things down. Okay, he said he'd give me this. He said he'd give me that. But right now, his stance to other teams has been, I'm willing to talk about anybody. I'm not willing to talk about trading Deshaun Watson. And so, that leaves you at the stalemate where the team isn't willing to talk about trading the player, and the player doesn't want to play for the team. So, I think, at this point, anybody saying they know what's going to happen, I think there's some guesswork there. But I heard what you heard too, and on Jim and Steve's podcast there that Deshaun did say, or that David Culley did say, he's our quarterback right now. And I think that's significant too, because even if that's a little bit of a slip, that means he's at least thought about or maybe talked about internally with Nick and other people in the building, what happens if we can't solve this.
Yeah, but how could they not have those conversations, Albert? I mean,
I think they'd have to. Yeah, you'd absolutely have to. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. There's no deadline right now. Some quarterbacks, like the Jets, I'll give you an example. The Jets, if they don't deal Sam Darnold this week, then, maybe that hurts their value a little bit because seats will fill up in other places. I honestly believe this. Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson, their value supersedes that. Their value, those two guys, their teams can hold on to them and they won't lose value. They're good enough where other teams will throw their quarterbacks overboard to go and get them. And so I just don't think that there's any rush to do anything right now. To me, the real pressure point is the draft, because if the Texans get to if you trade him after the draft, now you're trading him for future draft picks, for future assets, where you don't know if that pick you're trading for is going to be the 10th pick or the 25th pick. If they were to trade him to the Jets or Dolphins right now, you know what? They know, all right, that's a second pick, that's a third pick. We can find his replacement with that pick. So that's why I think the draft is sort of maybe the next important milepost here. I think this week is fairly irrelevant to both. To the value of either guy. Now, teams like the Bears, teams might want you to give them an answer, but I don't think it hurts the Seahawks or Texans to sit on the quarterbacks right now. I think where the Texans have to be looking at going forward, the Seahawks too, would be we probably should make for the good of our team, for the good of our franchise, for the good of our 2021 season, we probably should be seeking some sort of answer by the time we get to the draft.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.